on the broadcast in association with Businessworld, NewsX's panels on the Indian economy. We have with us a power-packed panel as always. Amit Agarwal, CEO and co-founder AgriBazaar, is joining us. Ankit Chaudhary, CEO and co-founder, CEO and founder rather of ISMA, is also with us live. Pulkit Agarwal, co-founder of Trail, joins us live. Ashank Desai, co-chairman of PAN IIT and an alumni of Reach for India Foundation, is also with us. Shikha Pava, CEO and founder, How's This, is also joining us, as is Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, Businessworld and Exchange for Media Group. Welcome all of you to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. Ankit Chaudhary, let me begin with you first. Your assessment of course, where things stand right now, Ankit. How bad has your sector been hit? Also, in terms of the government's financial stimulus, how much of relief has that really given you?
So let's be honest. The tech industry, as such, if we say, isn't really suffering because of the COVID-19. It's an unfortunate incident which is impacting more our operations compared to our financial well-being at this time specifically. We are seeing tailwinds of COVID, because of which the digital consumption has increased, and also anti-China tailwinds, which are further enhancing the capability of Indian-found enterprises to really get acceptance with the users. So from that perspective, there hasn't been a direct impact. But yes, as I said, there has been indirect impact from team management perspective. There were days when we were doubtful about, specifically for a company like ours, which was about to get into raising funds. It's been a difficult scenario convincing investors to put in money at these times. So those are the impacts that we are facing from a government funding perspective, or the financial stimulus that the government has created. When we look at it, we look at that the buying power of the end consumer, whether it's increasing or not. We're creating a social platform. So what is the impact of the end consumer buying power with the stimulus? It's a trickle-down effect. I don't see real cash being given to the citizens, and which would reflect in terms of how the citizens consume. So there's more to be done. I believe there's more to be done, because COVID is far from over right now. And if we don't do more, then we are in for a slow step out of this situation.
Okay. Dr. Batra?
I just want to say that I agree with Ankit that, COVID is here to stay at least for a while. And second, I believe that the impact of the last few months will be seen in the next 2 months in a negative way. A lot of companies are holding up. You may actually see a lot of startups whose revenues have gone down to zero or close to zero, shutting down, who have not been able to raise money. And they are in sectors that are contact businesses, for example, QSRs, airlines, travel, smaller hotel properties, individuals. So lots of contact businesses will actually, over the next 60, 90 days, go out of the business. But at this point, we'd like to bring Mr. Desai. Mr. Desai, you're a pioneer. You set up Mastech many, many years back. You're also chairman of NASCOM. You're chairman of PAN IIT. So you interact with a very influential set of people and entrepreneurs. Has the government's economic stimulus really done anything to the economy? And where do you see the economy going?
Okay, so it's a good question at a national level. So I'll answer it at two levels. One is at my industry level, which I speak about, and at a national level. Let me start at national level first. The stimulus which was given indeed was very useful. It was worth 20 lakh crores. However, large part of it was regarding monetary stimulus, and the fiscal stimulus was just 1.5% of GDP. Now, monetary stimulus did help many smaller companies in particular. I'm closely involved with entrepreneur ecosystem, and as you know, there were stimulus given to the middle SME sector by giving them a free credit, free as in without any collateral. And also a fund was created to pump in equity. Now, I'm not aware how much fund in equity has been used, but I am surely knowing many SMEs, and most of them are small entrepreneurs who have availed this facility. Not as much as they would like to. I must say that banks have their own issues. They are not as fast as government would like them to be. But having said that, it has been used. And that is a good lifeline. I am involved in many incubation now. I'm a vice chairman of IIT, Bombay's Sign, where there are many entrepreneurs and so on. So the point I'm making is, yes, it has some impact on the smaller, medium-sized industry. I'm not sure what impact it has on the larger companies. Coming back to IT industry. Now, IT industry is, as you know, almost 75-80% of our business comes from outside India. And to us, the issues are not about supply, as you know. But if at all there is any impact, it is of demand as emanating from US, UK, and all developed world, which is our main market. As you know, any industry has two dimensions: supply problem, demand problem. There are many industries who have both problems because they are not getting workers, they are closed, so it's a supply problem. Nobody is buying, so demand problem. There are some who have only demand problem, not supply problem. IT industry is lucky in the sense we don't have supply problem. All my people in Mastech and Majesco, 95% are working from home, are as productive, and some say more productive also. So that is solved. From the demand side, however, there are two sides to the story. One is everyone is going digital. We all know that. I don't have to explain to this audience and your audience. 75% of Fortune 500 CEOs were just interviewed last month, and 75% say that their biggest investment is going to be on digital transformation coming years. So that's a great thing. It's a good demand for all of us in IT industry. And we are looking forward to that. In spite of COVID, it should stop as soon as possible.
But
there is a new surge. Yeah.
But if over the next 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, if corporate India's focus is on just survival and not transformation, and I'm saying if the corporate India's focus is on survival and not transformation, while they are transforming in a tactical manner, they may not have the cash deployed for a transformation from a strategic standpoint. Then the demand may be weak in the future also. And if you look at some of the companies that give businesses to India, some of their businesses have been impacted. So do you see the demand in the IT services sector slowing down? You look at the results of some of the IT majors, their quarterly results haven't been the best, and that's expected. So some haven't been even from the weak forecast they did, the results were worse than that. So do you see really corporate India's demand helping IT services companies, or overseas companies also, their demand softening also not helping you?
Yeah, so there are two sides, as I was saying. One is in medium term and long term, there will be more digital work, which is good. In very short run, of course, there is an issue for survival to many industries, particularly retail and hospitality and oil and gas. But all other sectors, it is not that bad. But some of them are reducing their short-term investment, and that will have some impact on IT industry. It won't be some major impact like all other industries. You will soon know the corporate results of all companies. My feel is IT industry impact will be the lowest. There will be some impact with this kind of demand destruction. Okay. However, to your point, and you made an important point, they are surviving. I would say this is an opportunity to go digital, to survive. There are many companies today who are going digital and serving the demand and thus surviving. So it is not that because you are surviving.
Shift your focus to using technology not just for surviving, but to thrive in the future.
Correct.
I will come back to you, Mr. Desai. Yeah. You made very important points. Pulkit, I know your space, and I know who your investors are. You have a marquee set of investors. I know you presented in the Businessworld 40 under 40. I was in the room, and you've seen the Chinese apps got back, and in some way Trell is, I wouldn't say similar to TikTok, but it has some TikTok-like features. Tell us, how do you see, while you may get user traction, are you seeing advertiser traction? That's the real question to ask. User traction is a given. People have more time. The Chinese apps have been banned. People spending more time on screens. So that's a given. So tell us about advertising demand.
So definitely, Anurag, I think very precise and pinpointed question, and appreciate the time that you've given here. So yes, we are seeing a lot of brands essentially looking to harness the upsurge that has happened to the recent Indian apps, especially us. I think given the kind of growth trajectory we have seen in the recent past, right? So we've kind of grown 5x, from our little, from our previous trajectory. There are more than 50 brands who reached out to us in this very short time and said that they want to advertise or they want to associate with Trend going ahead. And I think this would have not been possible unless this push and this whole movement would have started for the Indian homegrown apps or startups essentially, right? Because as you know from the industry, it takes a lot of time to onboard a publisher or an advertiser and win trust and then start doing it, right? Because there's no talk that happens around Indian internet or let's say social startups which are into this space, right? Now, I think this whole thing has given a branding to Trell or more Indian startups, which in turn has attracted a lot of advertisers also, which we are seeing today. And Pulkit, how have you really seen this development that has come in with the Chinese 59 apps ban? How have you reacted to it? Any steps that you've taken since then? What's the kind of growth also you've seen of your particular startup and your enterprise, which will obviously give us a perception and sense of the other Indian competitors in the market? Sure. So I'll talk about first what has happened because of this Chinese app ban, and then I'll go into the specific of what we did. So if you see, internet revolution in India is a very recent space. It has just happened after 2018, wherein a lot, telecom industry just came in with so much cheaper data plans, and everybody was kind of coming on the internet. Now, the internet consumption and internet content startup is a very nascent stage, right? And it takes a lot of time to build enduring company which has really superior technology and experience that they can provide to the consumers. Now, if you talk about the players which have been established globally, be it from China or US, they came with their know-how, they came with their established technology, they came with a really, really experienced team and was able to essentially deliver an experience to the Indian consumers, which was kind of superior from day zero, right? But what happened because of this is that they also injected a lot of capital into the ecosystem, which made almost impossible for the homegrown startups or apps to really grow out of their trajectory, right? So there were instances wherein some of the Chinese companies copied the Indian apps pixel by pixel, and they just almost made it, kind of, out of the league, right, for them, right? So they injected so much capital that, they could not really get out of it. So I think this move that has happened is a small window opportunity for all the Indian internet startups to really make a mark, be able to provide that superior experience to the consumers, and have enough time to strengthen, right, all the technology team and various aspects that they would provide to the consumers. Now coming back to essentially what it has impacted us specifically at Trell, to just give you a glimpse about Trell, we are a lifestyle social network in Indian languages, which allow people to share vlogs or 3 to 5 minute videos around your passion, like beauty, personal care, fashion, gadgets, etc., etc. Now, with this mass movement of adoption for the Indian apps, a lot of content creators who were creating content on Chinese apps migrated to us. More than 4 lakh content creators migrated to us. And they generated more than 2 million content pieces within a span of like last 3 days on our application. And when they did that, they also publicized it on the other channels like Instagram stories, WhatsApp stories, and even on TikTok when it was there for some time, right? And essentially got all the audience essentially to the platform like us. Just to talk about some numbers, we essentially grew from around 8 million monthly active users 72 hours back to more than 22 million monthly active users. And as I was sharing recently, we are now have surpassed some of the international social networking giants like Twitter and Pinterest in terms of monthly active users on app in India. And that kind of growth trajectory would not have been possible without such kind of push happening from all across the places.
Chika, we would like an opening comment from you on what is your response to the economic stimulus and where do you see the economy going, and then the impact on your own sector and business?
Thank you so much for having me. Well, the first 2 months we were literally at nil revenue, so we were just grappling with what had happened. So I think it was really playing catch up and figuring out, and obviously making sure people were safe. I don't personally have seen the stimulus having trickled down to a size and scale of business like us. We run a consumer brand in the home and lifestyle space, and we're a bootstrap company so far. So whatever we need to do from revenues we're generating. And while we did reach out to the banks, the truth be, at the bottom we did not get the kind of response that we expected. So to concur with a lot of people, capital has been certainly a challenge. We see the next 3 months being, like you said, a game of survival, sticking to, if we can get back to pre-COVID levels in the next 3 months, we feel that, we would be good to at least rest out, last the next 6. Of course, we're setting our benchmark high. We're hoping that by festive season, Diwali, we should be back to at least growing the business as such. But I think, like everyone said, demand is the biggest concern. We're a consumer brand, and how long is this going to stretch? When are customers going to get back their spirit to go out? We are also in the online and offline space, so it's we have the advantage, like Mr. Desai said, that we can leverage online, but offline is a big challenge. Stores are practically still shut.
Sure.
And one more thing I want to talk about, because we're a brand that depends a lot on local sourcing. So the other big challenge we're facing is the supply chain, right? I have a customer sitting in Bangalore, but I'm sourcing from somebody in Bombay, and I'm sitting in Delhi. And how do I manage to service that customer when a Bombay is in a lockdown? And these are serious issues that we're facing, even though the government is really promoting local sourcing, vocal for local. But the challenge is, if all the engines are not firing in all regions, how do you manage
different rules?
Yes, it's so someday
it's a patchwork pandemic, as an article in the New York Times said. It's a patchwork pandemic even in the US. Amit, at this point, the government has done a lot for the agriculture sector in the economic stimulus. Amit, your opening comments on how the economic stimulus has helped your sector and your company, and how do you see the economy going forward? We'll come back, Shikha, to the demand, because that's the billion-dollar question.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Anurag, having me here. So I think, it's a watershed movement for Indian agriculture, and it's the reform we had observed in 1991. The same kind of reforms we are seeing in agriculture sector, and it has been asked by the government from last 20 years, and now it is now reality. So you will see a lot of progress in this sector, and I think it's a very great step from government side. If you look at the current India position in agriculture sector, many people are not aware that India is largest producer of spices, pulses, milk, tea, cashew, and jute in the world, and second largest producer of wheat, rice, fruit, vegetable. And if you look at the India's export, India is a net exporter, while China is a net importer, and India is a net exporter.
We were, of course, taking opening comments from all of our panelists before we took that break. Now we, of course, are going to look at the wider picture. Let me quickly go back to Shikha Pava at this point. Shikha Pava, we were speaking about demand. Now, how is demand going to come back into the market? What needs to be done by the government, the RBI, and what kind of timeline are you really seeing before demand returns to what it was pre-COVID level?
So, for me, I think it's got to be a 360-degree view, because for me, even if a restaurant goes out of business, that person is going to spend less money, right? A person out of a job is not going to be looking to buy home furnishings. So I think it's got to be like a 360-degree view, that the government has to see how they're going to put money and in everyone's pocket. And I think that's somewhere what we've not seen the benefits of it so far. And I think that's really where I would put it down. And in terms of longevity, or how long we see this going on, at least I would say 6 months more at the minimum. I think it also depends on how India is going to react to the pandemic. We're nowhere close to the peak yet. So I think from our business forecasting, we're looking at least 6 months at the minimum. That's the most optimistic, I would say. And a year probably, I mean, the vaccine comes out, nothing like it. But 6 months to a year, we expect a stalemate on this. And hopefully by then we can get the animal spirit back. Yeah.
Okay, Shikha. Pulkit, we were talking to you. And again, the silver lining is the digital acceleration. whether it's for content or education, or you take any sector, e-commerce. Do you think that in the next 6 to 12 months, India will be able to take a leap in a lot of sectors because the forced digital transformation that we have been made to go for?
Sure. So I think fundamentally the role of technology is to make things more efficient, make things more easy, for everybody around us, right? And I do believe that as people move more towards digital platforms for adoption, be it around, communication, be it around entertainment, be it around business, retailing, right? Or even essentially, some of the internal processes wherein things get automated because of technology. I'm sure it adds a lot of value for the whole economy to upgrade itself from its previous data and become more efficient, being able to churn out or essentially manufacture more goods or sales or essentially value in the same unit time. And I do think that as India moves towards digital, right, we have opportunity to build one of the most advanced societies going ahead in the next, 10 to 20 years horizon.
Okay. Ankit, same question to you. Will digital transformation lead to growth of the Indian GDP?
One, I definitely hope so. Second, I do believe this is going to happen simply because of the fact that we can take the demonetization example. What that did was that our villages went digital in terms of monetary transactions. And now, what COVID 19 has done is that it's forced the very economically weaker sections of our society also to consider options which are digitalized. Like, for example, education is not just for those of us who can afford it, but also for those who cannot afford it. And now they're looking at channels of how they can leverage digital in order to get there. So I do see a lot of penetration happening from that perspective. People who were not just Pulkit's platform, but also from a TikTok platform perspective, what it did was that everybody got an opportunity to be an influencer. Now, as COVID crept in, what happened is that our consumption as well as creation timelines increased drastically. Thankfully, the government decided that Chinese applications were not the best platforms to have in a country as huge as India. And we went to where China created the digital wall for the first time. Today, we are in a situation that we have created a digital wall against Chinese applications. And with a population of 1.5 billion, of which about 50% is getting onto the digital spectrum for the first time, this is a huge, huge opportunity for all entrepreneurs. More specifically for entrepreneurs who can not just copy the best of the developed economies, but also bring the unique cultural, geographical variation of India as a huge population into these platforms. If you've been able to build for India, you most likely will be successful anywhere in the world. Africa is the next target. US, of course, you can build for US also. The standards are all there. Now, when you have such a varied portfolio, you can go to any geography and win that geography over. So next 5 years, I would say the next 12 months are going to be very difficult for almost everybody. There's no doubt about it. Next 12 months are not going to be easy. COVID is not going away easily. We've not even seen the first cycle hit its peak, and there are countries which are talking about the second or the third cycle. So things are not rosy, at least for the next 12 months. We'll need a lot of government support, institutional support, VC support, support from all that have deeper pockets compared to the startups in our ecosystem. And then we can look at the next 4 years being what probably 2008 was to United States, or 2008 to 10 was for United States when those unicorns came out. It is time that consumer tech unicorns come out of India within next 5 years, and I'm pretty hopeful we'll see that.
Pulkit and Ankita keep saying that we haven't produced a single product company from India. Maybe now we'll see a product company. And I also keep saying that the Indian entrepreneurs need a level playing field in terms of cost of capital. I think that's the next area the government, because the Chinese entrepreneurs get cost their capital at 0%. I mean, there is practically no risk. So the government has created an opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs now for us to make use of it. And
do you believe, Dr. Bhatta, the digital entrepreneurs or the companies which which are in the digital space are the most cushioned right now.
That's true. They have, they can turn it into a window of opportunity. And Uday, the Chinese, for many, many years, the last 20 years, haven't let American giants do business in China in the way they do it in other parts of the world. They've had to have a Chinese partner. They've had to, work the way the Chinese government wants. And that has created Chinese global trillion-dollar companies. Look at Baidu. Look at, Alibaba. Look at Taobao. We can go on, the number of Chinese, companies that got created because of the Chinese policy on nurturing their own market with their own homegrown products has taken to China to the world. So I think if we are able to conquer India as Indian entrepreneurs, we can possibly go to other parts of the world. As Ankit rightly said. Ankit, you want to make a point?
Yeah. So what this has also created as an opportunity, Uday, is that in last 5 years, we have seen a couple of unicorns being established. And those founders are now coming back into the market as investors, as board members of other startups. Over the next 3 to 5 years, if we see more cash influx coming from these existing entrepreneurs who've seen success plus knowledge, and also the ones who see success over the next couple of years going back into VC funds as limited partners or otherwise, they'll create a lot of value for the youngsters who are trying to bring in startups. And that is critical. That has been a larger reason for Chinese success also, that entrepreneurs who saw success the first time, they went back and invested into other Chinese companies who went on to win the world otherwise. So that's
the only thing I disagree with there is the word unicorn. It's not a good term to use these days. These days we use the word proficon.
I totally
enterprises
agree.
that are profitable and are sustainable. Mr. Desai, the billion-dollar question is, when will the demand come back? And we're not talking about enterprise demand, we're talking consumer demand. In your own wisdom, as an entrepreneur and both as a consumer, when do you see the consumer demand coming back?
So when you ask that important question, the consumer demand has to be divided into what is an essential commodity demand, which we all know is doing quite well. People are buying FMCG goods and so on, are doing quite well because that is required.
Relatively well. Relatively
well. Spend, which is important. So to my mind, there is two things that are happening there. One is there is a suppressed discretionary demand. You see what is happening in an auto. Month of June has been quite good for them. They almost reached 70% of their what they were in month of March or February. Which means what? It is not only about people are buying, but people who have not bought also are buying. So what would happen is the demand will take time to come, slowly. It is going to slowly increase over 6 months to come to the normal level. However, it will come up fast because it will be normal demand plus demand that was not fulfilled during last 2 months. For two reasons. One is agriculture rural is doing extremely well. There is a lot of money flowing there. The demand has not gone down there. A. P. The COVID is putting some new demands in place for autos, two-wheelers, etc. But that's only one part of it. But it is going to create some new demand out of the necessities created out of COVID. So the suppressed demand not fulfilled and new demand of new requirement will match what has been reduced because of less saving, less income. And I do see in 6 months from now, gradually, the demand will come back to where it was at the beginning of the year.
Okay, Shikha and Amit, I want to address both of you. Pulkit, I know who the investors in your company are. I don't think you need to worry. I don't think anybody needs to worry. I think there's hope on the other side of COVID. There is a real worry, and we've raised it many times on the show with Uday, is that, a lot of startup entrepreneurs are reeling under the twin impact of their businesses going down and no funding. They were about to raise, the sentiment changed, the sentiment about the sector changed, and overall, some of the investors have become risk averse. The others are putting money in the companies that they'd already put in so that at least they sustain those. So what do you have to say as startup entrepreneurs? Amit, first, do you think funding is an issue for entrepreneurs currently, or it's not an issue? And then Shikha's response.
The startups which have been in the in business from last 2 years, I think there's no they have learned the tricks how to generate revenue, so they don't have any kind of worry on that part. And the startup which recently launched in 6 months back or 7 months back, I think they require some kind of assistance in terms of capital. They have to recruit more people, they have to test their product, they have to invest in technology. Yeah, so their revenue model yet to establish.
So you were saying we don't need to worry.
Yeah.
Will a lot of startups shut down? Let me ask this question very directly.
I don't think so that startups they run by passion, not by paisa.
Okay, I like that. I wish it was exactly like that. While I understand, Shikha, your comment, and of course, Mr. Desai will get you in.
Coming to you, yeah.
Yeah, no, just a quick add-on to that. I have a slightly contrarian view. I do think that we are going to see, unfortunately, some businesses shutting shop. It's unfortunately already happening. Many restaurants, especially. I mean, that's one obvious one. But coming back to what we were discussing in terms of funding, like I said, I'm from a consumer brand space. I think big tech, consumer tech, fintech still are larger spaces, but we have a very limited pool to go to. So we were, in fact, in the process of raising funds, and that has completely dried up. Having said that, investors are, they are partners in the journey. So they've been open. They're telling us that it's a question of riding through the storm. So like I said, our objective is survival. But even this period of survival, how are we supposed to get through it? Right? If you look at the government in the UK, they've actually paid for wages and salaries. I mean, we're a very different economy, but still, those kind of, sort of injections would really help us keep us afloat. And I think, the big money really comes later, but I see it being a tough ride for the next 6 months, certainly. Yeah.
Shank, you want to make a point?
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing. It's like I started, India's first agri startup in 2007. When I started, so into 2008 happened at the same time, and that time, investors were very less, and that was, we were in agri warehousing, we were developing agri warehousing across the country, and we really need a lot of money. But we got a lot of, support from customers. In terms of 3 months advance money, reservation, and etc. And first round we raised in 2012, and that was around 30 million round. And this is AgriBazaar is my third startup, and I've been running from last 2.5 years without having any kind of funding. Still, our customers are supporting at all. So it depends, what kind of product you are offering to your farmer, to your customers. Are they happy? Are they willing to give you revenue? That's my take on this.
Yeah, you've not lost here in spite of 3 ventures, so I'm sure you've done very well.
Yeah.
Prashant, you want to say something?
Yeah, so let me throw the light on your question from 3 angles. The first angle is I'm involved, as I said, in incubation space and interact with many entrepreneurs. I conduct a lot of programs online as I speak. Last week we had a program on behalf of associations and so on. I get the data that 30% of entrepreneurs are quite distressed. So we should be worried about them, what will happen to them. Number 2 data point is there was a study done just yesterday, if you have seen. 10% of entrepreneurs, 10 to 11% are absolutely clear that they have to shut down. They already shut down. And 20 to 30% reduce their salary by almost 30-40% of their staff. So I'm sure there are going to be serious mishaps. A restaurant is a good example. 30-40%, as Shikha said, are likely to get into trouble. Let me give it to the third angle. And I represent Pan IIT Reach for India also, who invited me to be here, apart from IT industry. So I'm a co-founder of this Pan IIT Reach for India, which is a IITian run.
I'm aware of it. I have lots of my friends on your board. PGs are friends, so I'm very much aware. PG.
PG, of course, is involved in Pan IIT. I knew he was a good friend. Good. So we are a non-profit, this organization which does skill building all over country, specifically in Jharkhand. We have trained 10,000 welders to get them a job over last 6-7 years. And we are also doing nursing, which is helping COVID requirement of nurses, particularly in Apollo and many other hospitals and so on.
Very much need of that.
Yeah, so we have a big event which are going on as we speak. This week, last week in next week.
What is the point you're making, Mr. Desai?
So the point I'm making is I get an input that large amount of money is getting out of CSR for helping non-profit doing good work.
Okay.
So I'm worried that many of the good non-profits.
Let's start now looking at the last segment of our show. On of course when
Just ask you one
COVID
question.
levels will return. Yeah.
The question is, where do you see the economy 90 days from now? We're not talking to 6 months, 12 months. We know in the medium and long term, the Indian economy will come back bigger, better, healthier, and possibly world class. But where do you see the economy next 90 days? Same as today, which is tepid, worse than today, or better than today? Shikha Baba, first you.
I think it's going to be a hiccup economy, as you can put it. It's going to be a constant up-down. Now, on the 90th day, where we will be, I can't say, but I think there will be maybe spurts of some improvement. But like I said, it depends upon how the country as an overall sort of gets out of this, because we all need to work together.
Pulkit Agarwal?
Unless we find a vaccination, I'm sure we have tough times ahead.
Ankit Chaudhary?
I feel we have tough times ahead unless and until medication which is publicly available to masses comes up. Next 90 days at least don't look tough.
Ashank Desai?
I feel that we are going to move upwards. By 90 days, we'll be halfway towards recovery. There will be ups and downs in the cases of COVID, but I'm very sure that we are moving forward towards recovery with a slow pace.
And last but not least, the gentleman from Agri Bazaar, your final view, Amit. Amit?
You're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
It's like unmuting the Indian economy.
So same as today, I think, we have given a lot of exams on this. So I think there is an upward trend you will see in next 90 days. Yeah.
Thank you.
But what's good to see is that Amit has the largest smile amongst all of us panelists on this particular show.
The government has actually done a lot for the agri sector. That's one sector the government has rightly done a lot. Government has done a lot for a lot of sectors, but agri, because of the inherent strengths that we have, is possibly going to have a better ROI than every other sector.
Definitely.
If you want to make the last point, absolutely the last.
Yeah, you see, we are sitting on 100 million metric ton of wheat and rice.
Yes.
So you need not to worry for next 4 years. And the farmers are going to earn a lot of money. There's a lot of prosperity will be there in the
as long as we have enough storage space and we are able to transport, because a substantial part of the grain gets rotted and wasted. So we have to stop that. It's better to feed human beings than let it rot. So
we're completely out of time. We're going to have to leave it at that.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.